Welcome to Vuforia Spatial Toolbox Spike Prime Sensor. Today we're going to go over the accelerometer measurements that are added in with the sensor mode. So in order to change to sensor mode, we're going to have to run the server. So I'm in Vuforia Spatial Edge server. If you are unfamiliar with this, you should check out our beginner video. It goes into the connection a little bit more. We're going to run node server, and this is going to execute the server. So we're going to, while this is running, go over to localhost 8080, and you should see something very similar to this. Then we're going to go into the Manage Hardware Interfaces tab, make sure your Spike Prime interface is turned on, and then go to the settings. And here for complexity, we're going to change this to sensor. So just type in sensor, hit save, and in order to save this change, you're going to have to actually restart the server. So go into terminal again, hit Control-C, and run the server again. So now once again I have my image target right next to my spike. I'm going to go into the programming tab, and you can see that we have a lot more nodes than we normally would have for intermediate or beginner. We have all these gyroscope and accelerometer nodes. We're going to go into the pocket to kind of utilize some of these nodes. We're going to grab a value tool. So we're going to drag in this value tool. We're going to resize it, and we're going to connect this to one of the accelerometer values. So I'm going to connect it to accelerometer Z right now. As you can see, it immediately updates. It's somewhere around 990. We're going to bring the value tool down closer to where the accelerometer Z node was, and then we're going to compare it with the accelerometer Y value. So let's go back into the pocket. We're going to grab another value tool. I'm going to resize it and drag it close to where the accelerometer Y value is. Now we're going to connect it to the accelerometer Y value. And as you can see, this value is much lower than the other one. It's only in the single digits. This is because gravity is currently in the Z direction, so the accelerometer Z node is actually measuring gravity. Another way to visualize accelerometer data is to grab a graph tool. So we're going to scroll through our pocket, and we're going to grab the rightmost chart. This one actually has axes from 2500 to negative 2500, so it's much bigger than the other charts. We're going to put this next to the accelerometer Z value. So if we connect our value tool up to our graph, it will then transmit data, and as you can see, the graph is somewhere around 990 and it's staying pretty level. So let's go ahead and connect up a graph to the Y direction as well. Again, we're going to use that 1000 graph, and so we're going to connect our value tool from the Y into this graph. And so now we can go ahead and unfreeze the screen so that we can visualize this in real time. So if we go ahead and pick up the Spike Prime and we shake it in the Z direction, you can see the graph changing, and then we can shake it in the Y direction, you can see the other graph changing. As you can see, the two methods of shaking were fairly independent of each other, and as you just set the Spike Prime back down, it goes to its normal values and starts to level off on the graph. So next we want to explore those gyroscope nodes. So these deal with rotation as opposed to acceleration. So we're going to cut our connection between the accelerometer Y and Z with the values and reconnect it with gyroscope Y and Z. And so now you can see these values are in the single digits right now because neither are affected by gravity. But if we go ahead and unfreeze the screen again, we can go ahead and rotate the Spike Prime. So you can see the graphs change as you rotate in that respective direction. And so here we have the Y graph changing a lot more than the Z graph because it's being rotated about the Y axis. As you may have noticed, there's no motor nodes in the sensor mode. So we give up motor control, but in return for that, we have much faster sensor refresh rate. So it's down to 10 milliseconds instead of 50 for all the other modes.